And we are live. Ari, can you hear me?
I hear you.
I just want to welcome everyone back to Pride in the Living Room. So, a quick refresher, this project was founded by the Israeli LGBT task force Agudah in memory of the 2009 Tel Aviv Gay Center shooting and the Jerusalem Pride Parade stabbing in 2015. And Agudah founded this project to offer a voice and a stage to LGBT Jews from around the world to to share their stories, to encourage empathy and community. So all of that said, it is my pleasure to welcome Ari to the stage, all the way from the States. Ari, over to you.
Thank you. So I guess let's get right started to it. My story, unfortunately, is like many other of the stories that you'll hear from people in like the New York, New Jersey area. Um, it's kind of unfortunate and sad in of itself that it's so similar to so many other people's. But I grew up in a mostly right-wing conservative town. All that mattered really was Talmud and basketball. So if you didn't do well in one or the other, then you're kind of out of luck right from the onset, which I was not good at either of those. It was taught right out that like being gay is against the Torah, no questions asked. And therefore by like rabbinic extension, like so is being a lesbian, etc. Taking it further, like words like fagala, which is like Yiddish for gay, was commonly used by like teachers and administrative staff in my schools, which was really sad for someone like me. Gay, as just like with everything else, it was the phrase that was used for anyone who didn't fit in. You weren't good at sports, you were gay. You had a high voice like I do, you're gay. It was either that or like being called a girl. So if you didn't fit in, that was what it was. And, just like where anyone else accepted it was true. So definitely it was, put me into this box and kept me there. My parents, who are both great, I gotta say that just in case they ever listen to this. My parents are both great. They did their best to create a welcoming home to everybody. They definitely are more liberal than the other parents were in my neighborhood growing up. They were loving, they were supportive of all three of their kids. If I didn't want to go to college, I didn't have to go to college. If I wanted to become an actor, I could have tried. Not that I was talented enough. The idea, I think, of a gay child, I don't think was ever one they ever really conceived of having. Even if it was, after I came out, I spoke to both my parents about it, and they both admitted of having that conversation of like, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But I think because it wasn't a reality to them yet, it wasn't something they ever had to focus on. So unfortunately, homosexuality was the butt of the joke, just like it was in pop culture. And because there was no defense from like the Jewish leadership that we all look to, it was okay in one's home and in one's school and anywhere else to use homosexuality as the butt of a joke. If one wasn't defending it, then it was almost like it was treated like a disease, and it was equated with like a perversion. So thinking about, I mentioned the administrative teachers, the administrative staff and the teachers and everyone like that in schools. It just reminded me of a time. This is like 15 years ago, so it's something that it's obviously stuck in my head. I was wearing a Gap shirt or a sweater. I assume they have Gap all over the world, so you know what it is. So it said Gap in big letters printed out, and my principal saw it, and this was in high school, and she loudly said, like in the middle of everyone, in front of like my classmates, they were like all congregating in the hall. She's like, "Does that say Gap or gay?" And it was humiliating to say the least. And I think she knew what she was doing. She knew I was a sensitive kid because I was always called into her office about crying about one thing or another. and she kind of like gave carte blanche to all the rest of my classmates to now make fun of me too. You know, it became different. Not only was there like, it drove like a wedge between me and my friends, but also drove a wedge between like my connection and dedication just to the Jewish environment around me. If she was the leadership for the Jewish school, and if she was able to make that joke, then, you know, where did I fit in? Obviously, like, it was during high school, was at a time when I was starting to understand who I was and what my attraction. So it definitely drove a wedge right in there, like I said, to my whole connections to the whole Jewish community and my friends, my school, everything. From the earliest time I can remember, I knew that I was attracted to guys and girls, actually. It's first confusing and then very terrifying. We're taught that at the end of like the Shemona Esrei, the Amida, that there's a special prayer you could add in, like a personal like prayer section. And I've heard this like from so many other people, that like I'd be praying for like my parents' marriage. They ended up getting divorced, but I prayed for them anyway. I prayed for my siblings, you know, to be successful, for my siblings to find someone and get married. And of course, I prayed that like I wouldn't be gay. There was in my sitter, and like that I kept in my film bag, which I carried with me everywhere those days. There was like a big G in my sitter, which obviously like anyone who would see it probably knew that it's for being gay. And like I'd be davening, I'd be crying and like shaking as I was praying. I'd cry at night when I was saying Shema, like thinking back, like I don't know, maybe I was crying those days, like not to be gay, or because I had a crush on someone in school and like crying that they would like me too. The very idea even of just having someone love me and actually like loving someone actually being loved back wasn't something that I fully even realized or accepted or fully understood the whole idea of until I actually, you know, met the person I would marry. Um, in college, I met a group of uh, guys who were part of Jonah. It's the now defunct conversion therapy group. So it was a group of other yeshiva guys. We spent Shabbat together. It was the first time that I would tell anybody that I'd like other men. I wouldn't even say I was gay. I'd be like, I actually like other guys. And it was a situation I found myself in that was finally the first time ever I was with guys who were gay. And I knew that, like, I think in my mind, like, I knew gay was a thing. I knew I was gay. And like, but I think because like on TV, like I said, being the butt of the joke, I never really connected the idea. Like it was compartmentalized, I think, in my mind. But now like here they were like actual gay guys in real life. But there was a caveat of that they're gay, but they were repaired. Um, Obviously, I don't know if that hurt me or helped me because I finally saw them, but it was kind of like I said, they're gay but repaired. So I like to hope to think that it brought me to the next step in my life. Just being able to meet them and being able to finally say it out loud to someone else that like I had, you know, feelings for other guys. Officially moved to New York after college. I found my group of friends. I went through the motions, you know, going to shul every week, every day, going to shul for Shabbat at least. You know, going to Shabbat meals and then dating really great women. And I really even liked a couple of people that I was dating, really, really liked them. But there was always this nervous feeling, like an anxious, scary thought of, what if I was just convincing myself that I wanted that? You know, we were told that like we were told to want something, so I wanted to want it, but there was never a chance for me to fully to sit down and understand it. And I always thought to myself, what if I woke up in 5, 10, 20 years and I'm married to someone who's really great and I have 2 really great kids, but I realized that all of it is a lie. And I'm realizing that I was just kidding myself and I'm stuck in this marriage and to ruin people's lives. It was this like horrifying thought that, you know, I'd wake up with every single day. And that thought actually became a reality. The horror, like it was something that horrified me when I actually had a supervisor at a job that I had who came on to me. And this was a respected member of the Orthodox community. He was married, he had a family, and he sexually harassed me. And like the it took a while. That I truly didn't quite know what to do, aside from staying quiet. First off, I didn't want people to ask about myself because I wasn't out at the time. I also, like I said, because he was part of the Jewish community, saying something in my mind would ruin his family and make this big explosion or big splash within the community, and it could leak out. And it's very confusing for me, very upsetting, and I basically just kept it to myself. Eventually, I did leave that job, and I did come out somewhat. I did start dating guys, first on like random sites, like OkCupid or whatever it was at the time, because I didn't think that dating a Jewish guy would really ever be a possibility. I finally did go on JSwipe when I found out that they had that you could choose who you're looking for. So I was on JSwipe, and I was also being set up by friends. And I found the guy who would become my husband. He's also from an Orthodox family. And it was really great in the most surprising way that I'd be able to spend Shabbat with the family of the guy that I'm dating. We'd go to shul with his family. We'd have Shabbat meals with their family friends. We would sleep in separate rooms because just like we were any other couple or opposite sex couple, if they couldn't do it, then we couldn't do it. People, when we go to meals, they wouldn't be asking like, what's it like to be gay? Or at least not all the time, they'd be asking that. But they'd be asking like, when are you gonna get married? Do you want kids? Do you want to move to this neighborhood? We're really great and accepting and open. After a few years, we did get engaged. The rabbi or his family rabbi gave a speech at our engagement party. And my fiance's family, they posted this mazel tov in the shul's bulletin. And that's where things kind of went south for a little bit. The rabbi of a shul in Long Island, another place in New York, if you're not familiar with it, he found out about that this Orthodox shul posted a mazel tov to a gay couple. It wasn't 100% true because really they wished my fiance's parents and his grandmother a mazel tov. But either way, he came out against the shul, and basically condemned them. And it was a whole big, scramble to figure out what to do. My fiance's rabbi and their entire shul were, at a loss because the Orthodox Union, who funds all the Orthodox shuls, they found out about it and they basically said you have to, put an end to this, and they wanted them to retract it. The shul felt bad for us. The rabbis felt bad for us. Our families felt bad for us. And it really put a damper on the whole engagement and the wedding planning experience. It made finding an officiant difficult. It made finding a kosher caterer difficult. Even just a venue that would hold a kosher caterer, it became a whole process. Just because anyone who would be affiliated with an Orthodox institution couldn't be connected to us now. Or anyone in this similar situation. Of course, along the way, my fiance's parents were insistent that we had to be married, and if we were going to be married, if we were going to be together, we had to get married, and if we were going to get married, it had to be as closely based to an Orthodox, union or ceremony as possible. Like I said before, just like any other child that they had. My fiance comes from a family he has 5 siblings. So 3 of them are already are married. So if it's gonna be one way, it's gonna be the Orthodox way. On my family side, my father was happy for us as long as we were happy, and he would go along with whatever we wanted. My mother, on the other hand, though, while she was happy for us, she was very much opposed to us having any type of religion brought into the ceremony or the celebration at all. In her mind, there had to be a distinction. She was happy for us and she wanted us to be happy, like I said, just like my father, but being gay in her mind was against the Torah, and something that she, just the whole concept she had to wrap her mind around, but when it comes to the wedding, there had to be that separation, because having components that were connected to Judaism in her mind and in a lot of people's minds would be blasphemous. So because of that, she wasn't actually involved or present at the ceremony. Last minute, she ended up coming to the reception. My brother wasn't present at anything at all. I came out to him last, actually, just shortly before we got engaged. He's an Orthodox rabbi. The whole idea of me choosing to this life and, choosing to be gay in his mind, air quotes on choosing, is something that gets him upset and disappointed to this day. Just like with, like I said, in high school, me coming out drove a wedge between me and him and between him and my family. His wife doesn't talk to me anymore. He has 8 or 9 kids. We don't really see them anymore. It's kind of like a quick phone call and then a goodbye. I think one of his kids found out they don't really use the internet, but one of them has a friend who was on the internet Googling their names, and because we have the same last name, a story about me came up and she found out. But like I said, there's a very big separation between us. It also put a wedge between my parents and him, and my sister and her family. They all love me. They all love my husband even more. We spend time with them. And anytime that they're with him, when I'm with them, it's kind of like the elephant in the room, and sometimes the loudspeaker in the room, where it just makes things so uncomfortable and unpleasant. But he sees me choosing to be gay is me forgetting about the Torah. And again, choosing to be gay. Something that I learned from JQI, or Jewish Queer Youth, which is a great organization here in the city, is that they teach us in yeshiva that engaging in homosexuality is a sin, but they tend to skip over the part where being a homosexual isn't wrong. It's just how God created you. It's something people often forget and have difficulty acknowledging. Back to the wedding. We tried to stick to the classic Orthodox script, but we had a lot more fun with it. Our parents didn't walk us down. Instead, we didn't walk down with our respective parents. We wanted to represent that we were in it together, so we walked down the aisle together. We skipped circling around 7 times, but we used an idea that we saw from one of our friends, whose wedding, friends, kind of an acquaintance. We weren't at their wedding, but we kind of modified the Sheva Brachot, where, with the exception of the blessing on the wine, the 6 other blessings were given to friends, and they could offer us any type of blessing that they would want. They read quotes, poetry, they used ideas from books, from movies. They went off of just Jewish ideas to wish us the best on the life that we were building together. And at last minute, one of my husband's family's rabbis ended up reading the Shtar, which is the Jewish contract that we used in lieu of a ketubah. We skipped any traditional wedding songs. The usual wishing of congratulations to a bride and groom, or the chatan and kala, would be kind of, for us, it would just be awkward to replace, and even more awkward if someone forgot to swap out the chatan v'chatan and started singing out loud, mazel tov to the bride and groom. We wanted to skip all that. At the reception, we had people giving us toast, and another one of my husband's family's rabbis led us in hamotzi, the blessing on the bride. After that, all the gays and the dancers, that were there broke out. It was the best dancing probably at any type of Jewish wedding that there ever has been. It was great. So with the absence of family members, there was also an absence of kind of the complete absence of my childhood almost. Aside for 2 friends that I had from the time I was in elementary school, Everyone else on my side of the invite list were people that I knew from the last 10 years of my life. Part of me felt sad about it, that I didn't really, get to have that. And part of me, kind of wanted to exclude that part of my life because they don't get what I was doing, or they were disgusted by what I was doing, because to them it's against the Torah. Another part of me was kind of happy about it because in my mind, and according to my friends, those people are just never gonna truly understand how fun it is to be queer, because it can really be a lot of fun. The experience I went through from beginning to the end of the engagement ordeal really made me question my defense of orthodoxy. Why was I fighting to be part of a group that overall didn't want me? And this is, of course, no judgment to anyone who is continuing that fight, and I fully support them. But for myself, why did it matter anymore? The essence of who I was, being a queer Jew, didn't really need a specific sect of Judaism to define me anymore. It was finally about how I connected to Judaism and how I connected to God and religion. So I keep kosher and I have Shabbat meals, but why did I have to go to a shul where I would stand there and feel uncomfortable? And that kind of brings us to today. And the pandemic aside, my husband and I are in a really great place. We live in New York City. We have an accepting and loving group of friends. We have Shabbat meals with them. One of my favorite things really is at the end of the week coming back and having a queer Shabbat meal and just being surrounded by people who just get us, and we don't have to sit there feeling uncomfortable or hiding who we are. We also tried a bunch of different shuls or synagogues and prayer groups, no longer feeling the need that we have to go according to just one opinion. And of course, we started an Instagram account to promote visibility of Jewish queer relationships, something that we didn't have growing up, or not that they weren't there, we just didn't have them available for us to see. And I guess going back to the whole New York City idea, is there something really great and special about being both part of the Jewish and LGBT community, which the city really blends together perfectly. And I can't really place what that feeling is, but it's really just being part of a community that we created for ourselves. Being in a same-sex Jewish marriage, there's also this, well, there's a question of the fact that we don't have any minhagim or customs that we have to follow. There's no roadmap for queer couples. I guess we were at a loss. We're all at a loss of that in some respects, but in others, it's really great to be free to find our own path. And it's great that we don't have to wait 6 hours after eating meat before eating milk, because my husband's family only waits 3. So we're going to that one instead of waiting my 6. And we wash before kiddush and hamotzi, the wine and bread, because we both come from yucky families or yucky ancestry. So we took that on. And these little things that we, along the way of building our lives together, that made it really special for us. I guess going back to as I mentioned earlier, that we started an Instagram, that we wanted to show the life of 2 Jewish guys who are married to one another, leading, a happy life. Still a marriage, obviously. We have our fights and our arguments about whatever, big or small. But overall, we're happy, and we want that message to be, seen by other people. And it's also great the number of teens who reach out, both Jewish and not, asking for help, for advice, for ideas, and just to say thank you, because they didn't think they'd ever get to see something that we have. And representation matters. That's our go-to saying, that representation matters. And that's why we decided to have a public wedding. And we didn't just go to City Hall and elope and, just come back to my in-laws and be like, sorry, we already did it. No, there's no issue about an Orthodox wedding because we got married at City Hall. But we wanted our family and our friends, straight and queer friends, that just to be there and to see it and to experience it, to know that it's possible, even with all the hate, even with all the stupidity. People will throw it to us, throw it in our face regardless, but we got to do what we wanted in the end. I guess I could end it with that to end this long-winded story. People always say that like it gets better. And I mentioned earlier about, having gay being thrown at me as a slur and having a wedge between me and my friends. When I was in elementary school, there was a kid in my grade named Jonathan, and he made my life a living hell. My father used to sit me down. I was crying and be like, "There's always a Jonathan in your life, no matter where you are. I had a Jonathan. Everyone has a Jonathan." But he truly made my life hell. He was someone. If anyone was responsible for the start of me being called gay amongst my peer group, it probably was him who started it in my mind. But shortly after we got engaged, I got a message on LinkedIn. It's a very odd place, very professional, but I got a message on LinkedIn from him and his wife, and they're wishing me a mazel tov because I heard about my engagement, and he wanted to apologize for all the things that I went through. It didn't really make up for, years of torment and psychological damage, but it was really special for me, and it made the whole experience, just trying to forget my childhood, the 2.5 decades of hate from my religion, my friends, my own hate for myself. It didn't make up for it, but it kind of put it all into perspective, and getting that message really finally made me feel like I won in some respect. So I think that's kind of the full circle about myself, about the different points in my life. And I'll give it to you now.
Thank you so much, Ari, for sharing your story. There are so many LGBT Jews who I've spoken to who would love to get married one day, and that's still a life journey that they're on. And I think it's really inspiring, genuinely inspiring to hear how you're able to find a partner, Jewish, with similar backgrounds and similar life experiences and similar desires to have a Jewish identity in your family, and to be able to push through the wedge, as you say, and to create a beautiful bond, whether it's an Orthodox wedding or the way that you have designed it yourself, forging your own path. And yeah, seeing that you're just a normal couple, like you have your high moments, you have your fights, it's just normal, I think that's really
Exactly.
beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Can we convince your husband to make a guest appearance, or?
I'll ask him. I'll send him a message. He's in the next room taking care of, we got a puppy, Kai, and he's really cute, but he's also a handful. And we love him, but also never get a puppy.
I have a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Of course.
God, I wrote so many things down. Where do I even start? Okay, so during your life, particularly when you were younger, there were times when you had a conflict to wrestle with. You were Jewish. You also realized that there was something a little bit different about you. And, you were saying that in school, being gay was considered a disease or a perversion. And there was even some words coming from staff members as well, from the top all the way down. And that couldn't have been easy for a young kid to go through. So I'm just wondering, for all of the listeners out there who are going through a similar thing, or have been through those moments in their own childhoods, what would you say to those people?
Um, I'm not gonna pretend like it wasn't, you know, I won't pretend like there weren't nights, the majority of nights, even majority of days where I would literally curl up on the floor of my room, be it in my, my parents' house, or even when I was, after college, um, even in my early 20s, when I would literally just want the world to end, where I want to, end my life. That I 100% had, you know, unfortunately, like many other people, I had suicidal thoughts. I hate it. I pray to God to not make me to wake up tomorrow and not be gay, or just I would pray to God to let me just die, which is it's sad for me to hear myself say that, and it took me a very long time to admit that to anybody. Just as long as it took me to admit to people that I wasn't straight, it took me just as long to admit to people that there were times I truly hated my life. And it is difficult and it is hard, and unfortunately, no matter what environment you're in, there's going to be like I said, there's going to be people wanting to throw hate in your face. There's going to be people who just want to tear you down and make you as miserable as they are and as miserable as a person can be. But like I said, there's also those times where it's totally worth it when you're sitting at a Shabbat meal, or if you're not religious, just sitting amongst any peer group where it's a bunch of queers having fun, hanging out, and you get to just just be in that moment for a minute and truly have that feeling. Um, and it really makes it worth it. And it might sound silly, and it might take you years to find that group and that community, but when you do, it really is 100% worth it. And when you find someone you love, whether you're in your teens, in your 20s, in your 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever it is, whenever you find it, if finding another person is what you want, not everyone wants to find another person. But finding that thing that you love in your life and ignoring everything else around you, that's what it's all about. My husband Avinan is here. He could say hi.
Hi.
Hello, hello.
He's recording.
Okay.
So this is Avidan. Sorry.
Avinan?
Avidan.
Avidan. Ah.
Yeah.
Hi, Avidan. Can you sorry?
It's a very Israeli name, but he's not Israeli.
You're from New York as well?
Yeah.
What was the quick context? This is a project called Pride in the Living Room, inviting LGBT Jews from around the world to share their stories. I won't give you a whole spiel, but do you have like one quick word to say? Like, what's the best thing about being married to this guy?
Oh man, I don't know what he already spoke about, and I hope he didn't badmouth me too much. But Ari is just a very caring person, and he shows that through every action that he does. So he goes out of his way to make me specifically, but also all his friends and family happy and loved and cared for. And it's a great quality, but it also makes it hard to like live up to that because he's just such a caring person. So I love that, but yeah, he gives the best gifts, and it's impossible to beat him at giving a gift because he'll like remember something he said like 3 years ago and like make that into a gift.
Feel like I'm in couples therapy now. So Ari, now it's your turn.
Like I said, it's kind of like with especially on his side, it's kind of like we're any other couple. When we talk about in-laws, like luckily we have a great relationship with my in-laws, his parents, and just like any other couple, it's like, oh, my mother's calling, and like, oh, your mother's calling, and like, oh, we have to hang out with them. But we take it for granted that we have such an amazing, I have such amazing in-laws that multiple times a week they're calling us and or texting and saying, you know, we haven't seen you in a couple of days, we haven't seen you in forever. And it's like, we just hung out, we just saw you. We 100% have to remind ourselves all the time that a lot of people don't have this. And even on my side of it, like, it's very different. And whether you have that in your life or not, just know that it does exist and it can be possible. That's it.
You're welcome to stay, or
no, I have to go because the dog is awake and I'm worried he'll start barking and interrupt you guys.
Okay. Wonderful to meet you.
You too.
We started putting the puppy on the bed, and it's a terrible idea. Don't do that.
So during those times when you were, you know, going through these struggles and going through these questions and, you know, praying the gay away and being in that headspace, what was it about Judaism that made you want to cling on?
Interesting. Like I said, I kind of had to re-envision my entire connection to it once I fully understood who I was. In college, I did this, in my psychology class, we did an experiment sort of thing. Are you intrinsically or extrinsically connected to Judaism? Meaning, are you doing it because you feel deep down a connection, an intrinsic thing, or extrinsic because, you know, everyone else is doing it, I'm gonna do it. Growing up, 100% it was extrinsic. Throughout my 20s, it was all because, you know, my friends are doing it, I'm doing it. So I think it was there was always this constant struggle of, why am I trying so hard? I don't fit in. Whether it was about being, you know, not being straight, or because I just truly did not get why we were doing like Gemara or whatever it would be, you know, like things that I just truly didn't get. And sometimes I did think it would be easier if I just left it all. But there was always a part of me that just felt almost like sentimental about my connection to Judaism. Like I put so many years of effort trying to fit in, and just because I don't fit in the way people want me to, you know, why does that mean that I have to throw it all away? Like I put so much of my own work into this, and just because I don't like certain aspects of it or don't fit into certain aspects of it doesn't mean that I don't belong there. So I don't know if necessarily, you know, Jewish ideas got me through the day, or like reading Pirkei Avot or something, or like, you know, reading some Jewish mysticism or whatever is something that would have necessarily got me to, you know, on an 11-step journey of finding myself. But I think the whole idea as a whole of being connected to something bigger than myself and bigger than my own issues, I think got me through some issues. Maybe.
So you are proudly, do you use the term gay to describe yourself?
Yeah, it's easier. I truly, honestly, and this is something, even when I came out, it was something that I was always battling with. And because before I came out, I was shomer negia, meaning that I didn't touch women. But like, I think I always identified with the fact that I was attracted to both men and women, or really just attracted to anybody. So I don't necessarily write off the fact that I'm bi, and I think it would be wrong for me to do that, you know, like bi erasure sort of thing. I don't know if I'm definitely not, you know, 50-50, and that's not what being bisexual is about. It's more for me like a 70-30 split, or you know, whatever math would be. I don't know math. I'm queer. We don't know math. It's not 50-50, and I'm definitely attracted more to men, but I can't erase the fact that I do have a, I have been and I am, and in some aspects, still attracted to other people. Obviously, I have my husband, but whether I see a good-looking guy or a good-looking girl in the street, even Agudah knows that like I'll point that out. So whatever that is. Also, I will say that like until I was in my 20s, sorry for cutting off there, like I knew what bi was, but like people always say like bi is a stepping stone to being gay, and I think that's truly not true, and it's hurtful to people who are bi, and it's hurtful to people who are trying to come out, and it's my friends who were really meant the best and wanted me to be happy and just wanted to push me along in my journey. That wasn't helpful. But everyone has their own thing, and it's not a stepping stone. And it could be that some people are just experimenting, and they will end up being fully gay, or maybe it is just 5% of them is attracted to another person. But I also didn't know, like growing up, until I think I was like 26 or 27 when I learned what like being pansexual was, and like it was just LGBTQ or LGBT, and then like I was like, oh, being queer is a thing, and like the B in LGBT is a real thing, but it's like LGBTQIA plus whatever. Like you could fit into so many different things, and you could be married to the opposite sex and still be queer. It's we can't erase all those different letters. That's it. Sorry.
What's it like being openly Jewish in LGBT spaces?
I think interesting. I think for me, because I am, I'm more affiliated with like JQY, Jewish Queer Youth, and a lot of the queer things I do are with people who know that I'm Jewish. I haven't really had a lot of pushback. A lot of people equate like being Jewish with being, pro-Israel, whether you are or not. It doesn't, like, that's not part of the discussion, but like they, some people don't truly understand what it means to be Jewish. I think though my husband really faces a lot more of it, because he was a figure skater for many years and retired just a couple years ago. So while I was kind of growing up in the Orthodox world trying to be gay, he was growing up in he was more connected to the gay world, coming into the Orthodox world sort of, or rejoining the Orthodox world. He's also in Columbia now, Columbia University, where there is always this discussion of, in a queer space or in a safe space, can you bring religion into it? And that it could be anything, like having kosher food brought into a queer space, just to be accepting of everyone. And that is more of a discussion there. So I don't think I myself am the best person to be saying that, and I'll admit that. Most of my friends are Jewish, most of my friends are queer, but I'm definitely, I haven't really been exposed to that aspect of it, of trying to, defend the fact that I'm Jewish. It just, especially in New York, it just it's a given, everyone here is a queer Jew.
So you were talking about your Instagram page and how you. So when you got married, was it a news story at the time?
Yeah. So we started the Instagram thing shortly after, a few months after we got married. And yeah, when this whole thing happened, an article came out in Matzav, which is some Jewish publication. Didn't hear of it beforehand, haven't heard of it since, but my mother-in-law sent it to us because someone sent it to her, and I don't think she read it. And she was like, "You made the news," and all excited for us. And then I read it. I was actually at a work event at the time, and I was like, "Wait, this is not a good thing." I'm like, it was basically this news outlet took what the rabbi in Long Island said and made this whole big story about Jewish shul, in New York, wishing two homosexuals a mazel tov, and it kind of blew up from there. Then that was taken and brought out, into a bunch of other publications. It put a lot of pressure on the Orthodox Union. It made a lot more pressure for my husband's shul, or my husband's family shul. And it became this whole like New York fight sort of thing of like, well, if you're not going to be accepting of us, then just watch what we'll do. We'll tell all the big companies that the Orthodox Union works with that you're not being supportive of queer people. So it kind of exploded a little bit, and I didn't know what to do. I kind of was like, forget it, who cares? Let's stay quiet. What does it have to do with us? But then they kind of started coming after like family also. My father-in-law works for a Jewish school, and it kind of was threatening him. So that I reached out to a bunch of friends asking for advice, and I ended up writing an article for the Jewish Week, which is a publication in New York, New Jersey, all around over here. Basically saying, well, the title was why don't I deserve a mazel tov, I believe, or am I not deserving of a mazel tov, something to that effect. And I addressed the fact that the mazel tov wasn't for us, and the shul literally said mazel tov to my in-laws and my grandmother on the fact that their son got engaged to me. So it's like, why can't they experience, why can't they have a congratulations on the fact that they have a simcha in their family, regardless of what's happening there? And luckily, there was a lot of positive feedback on that. Of course, negative feedback from the Jewish community, but a lot of the Jewish community did come together to support us. We had people from like the New York area buying things off our like wedding registry, just like trying to say like, we're here to support you. We made a lot of friends off of it. People who reached out on like Facebook and whatever, just saying, we're here for you. If you ever want a Shabbat meal, we're here. So it did, like I said, it definitely made things more difficult, just leading up to the wedding. But I think we stood together. We made sure we, kept communication open between us, between our family, between the religious leaders that we were looking up to, just making sure we're all on the same page. And we got through it together.
It can't be easy having such a public experience when you're in search of just a private existence. And what I've experienced speaking with a lot of LGBT Jews, there's this quest to just sink into the background, but the nature of the beast is to sort of be thrusted to a public arena. So it's really amazing to hear that through it all, you are using your voice to you said before, representation matters.
Yeah.
And you're able to use your voice to be that beacon of light to others who are still wading through the darkness. So on behalf of all those people who have probably never met you, but they have been somehow impacted by your work, I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you to you too. We're all in it together.
I have one or two more questions, if that's okay.
Of course, yeah.
So Rosh Hashanah is around the corner. I think it's next week or the week after. I mean, you can probably say this more than me, but Rosh Hashanah to me is a time of introspection, taking stock of the previous year, making plans for the future, sort of thinking about where we fit into the world and what our purpose is in the world. So what's your New Year's resolution?
It's a weird time to be in general. I think we're not out of the woods when it comes to especially in America, where when it comes to the whole pandemic, and just going outside, seeing friends, any of that. So I think it's tough to say, it's tough to even think about a New Year's resolution. But I think just in general, something that I always work on is just being more comfortable with myself. Being more accepting and more loving of myself. People could go their whole life without doing that. It's terrible for your mental health, but it's literally like I could look in the mirror every morning and just not feel happy about what I see. So I think just for my own self, just being more loving, more kind, more caring to me. And then for my husband's sake, being more patient, more kind, more caring. Because marriage, it's work. You can't take a day off. It's constant work. And I guess now that applies to our puppy as well. Just not picking him up in the street and screaming at him because he doesn't know any better.
I'd like to go back, all the way back to the beginning. When you were growing up, you were immersed in this Orthodox Jewish environment, and you were finding your place in the world. And you encountered a lot of conflict. You observed the conversion therapy space. You were having conversations about, do I marry a woman and live in secret, or do I sort of ruin her life? What do I do there? And you're also talking about a moment where you experienced sexual harassment from a member of the community. And sexual harassment, sexual abuse, it's something I hear over and over again from the LGBT community. There's a lot of people who have been through the darkness, and they have a lot of internal conflict, and that manifests in very unhealthy ways. So as someone who has experienced all of these different moments of darkness in their life, thinking back to yourself in that headspace at that time, finding himself, working his way through his journey, what would you say to him if you had the chance?
Like you said, it's being repressed. It mentally stunts you, and it could grow into this beast inside of somebody. It can do crazy things. Thank God, like I came out when I did, and I had the strength to do so for myself. Just to come out to myself, to come out to my family, my friends, etc. But there are so many things. Like I wish I could go back, to when I was however old. Definitely before high school, and just to be like, just like screw everybody else. It doesn't matter. Your friends in elementary school, your friends in high school don't matter. And just, you gotta live your life for you, and like, don't be scared to own up to the fact that, you might have a high-pitched voice and you might not be good at sports, but, find something that you're interested in. Like, you don't have to fit in, and not fitting in, it could be really, really great. I wish I could go back and just give myself the courage that I was lacking, because I was told that if you don't do X, Y, and Z, you're not worth anything. And now, like, it's just, like I said, thank God thank God I didn't fit into X, Y, and Z growing up, because now I'm living a life where I feel like I am truly, I feel like, God bless my friends who, are living, and they, with their wives, and they have 5 kids, and they got married at 18, 19, 20, whatever it was. I hope they're living the best life, but I wish I could go back and tell myself that just because you're gay doesn't mean that, you're not going to have a great life too. Like, you could have fun, and you could have the same life that anyone else does, except there would be a lot more glitter involved. And just allow myself to be happy. I think I hid so much, and I, denied so much, denied so much things to my family and my friends, and denied things for myself, that it truly did stunt my growth in certain ways. Maybe I would be good at math if I wasn't hiding the fact that I was gay. I don't know. But just from start to finish, just own who you are, and just ignore all the idiots out there who just want to tear you down. Because in a few years, they're not going to be part of your life anymore. And even if they're not part of your life, maybe they'll come in and wish you a mazel tov on the fact that you just got engaged to another guy, because it could happen.
Thank you so much, Ari, for being here as part of Pride in the Living Room.
Thank you for asking.
I'll just reiterate that your story is so impactful and I think it to see someone who has been through so much in their life at such a young age, but to choose not to be consumed by the darkness, but instead to take all that energy, to take all those life experiences, and to build something positive, and to have the strength to pass that light onto other people. I think that says a lot about your character. And I think that there are people watching this, both Orthodox Jews and LGBT people, who will watch your story and they'll all take something quite special away. So thank you for that.
Again, thank you for having me. And I hope there's a fire truck behind me. I hope I can, so at least one thing I said, is able to make a difference in somebody's life, or give them some courage along the way. And again, it's not easy. They're one step forward, two step back sort of thing. But just find your crew, find people who love you, and just keep them close. That's all.
In that case, there's only one more thing to say. Here's to sharing our story in this moment and many more moments in the future. Thank you, Ari.
Shana Tova, thank you. Enjoy your Sunday.
Thank you. Enjoy your Saturday. Shana Tova.